show. It's Power 105.1. Bevy Smith is here today. It's Black History Month. I don't know if you know this, Bev, but we're doing an author every week. We're highlighting a book author. And you are an author this week, so we'll be plugging your book all week on the show. Bevelations, which everybody should have in their collection. But yeah, so Bevy just wrote this amazing book. Clearly she wrote it while she was on page 6, which I had no idea. And I also had no idea that you were not happy there.
I was not happy there, Angie. It was a really tough gig for me. It was tough on a lot of different things. One, as you know, I'm a gal about town. Yeah. I like to be in the streets. So when you have an 8 a.m. call time, that cuts all of that out, right? So that was very, very hard on me. And then there were also cultural differences, I'll put it that way. Cultural differences that were really a pain in the butt to have to navigate every single day.
Right. But you know what's so funny about you, and I love this about you, you're so like, even in the book, you talk about how, you know, you didn't decide to even be a public personality, TV personality, till you were late 30s, right? 38?
Yeah.
30. So, and I love the way you put it in the book, because you're like, I realize that sounds crazy of me, that I thought I was just going to get a TV show in the first year. But you really just did. You just jumped out the window and did that. And then you get a TV show, and then you're like, yeah, but I was unhappy. But I was not so happy in the TV. That was actually your second show, right?
That was my second show. I was very happy on my first show, Bravo's Fashion Queens.
You loved it.
I love that. That was the best thing ever. That was a great... it was a great production team, and I had great co-hosts. I had great co-hosts on Page 6 TV. I love Carlos and Elizabeth, but the production, the behind the scenes of Fashion Queens was really a family. We had a real nucleus, and they got me. So
they spoiled you, because that was your first introduction to TV. You thought, oh, everything is going to be like this.
Right. I mean, first of all, it was called Fashion Queens. So we wore all my clothes from Bergdorf Goodman. I only wore designer clothes on that set. You know, we were in the West Village, so like my lunch would come from Il Cantonori or from Da Savano, and you know. And so when I get to Page 6, and they're like, "What do you want from Pret Manger?" And I was like, I don't eat packaged meat. I don't eat no packaged lunch.
I did Page 6 a couple of times. I always had fun because it was, you know, it was like
one come and you go out.
Yeah, in and out. It was an in and out thing. So I did a few times a night. So I had a good time. But yes, it was not fancy.
No.
There was nothing designer happening backstage.
No, but you know what? I will say my stylist did a great job. Fran Taylor did a great job on my wardrobe at Page 6. But that's because she had great relationships. But, you know, it was like she had to work really hard at making sure I got the things that I needed that would make me feel and look great on camera. Because, you know, another thing is this, Angie, you know this. A woman like myself, a grown, dark-skinned, short hair, curvy Black woman on TV, you don't see a lot of us. And so it, you know, I think I'm really probably the only person of my ilk on TV. If you really think about it, the other dark-skinned women that you see on TV, they have more, they're not hip hop. They don't have that energy. It's different.
It's different. It's different, right?
It's different.
So you feel that? So you feel like you have to represent. Like what is that? Or they just don't get you?
Well, I just feel like, you know, I want to represent for my culture and for my people and from whence I come. Yeah. You know what I mean? I always say, like, you know, when you look at someone like an Oprah, who is only maybe 12 years older than I am, it seems like a world apart because she's not a part of hip hop culture. Right. So now when I look at the younger girls that I'm mentoring, and maybe they're 10 years younger than I am, but we can still connect because we have hip hop as a commonality. Hip hop, as you know, Angie, is the great common denominator. And if you have that, it doesn't matter the age, you can go there. We have this beautiful range in us.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It lets me and my kid have conversations about who his favorite new artist is.
Right. But even still, you have to know who is. You know exactly who he's talking about when he's telling you.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? You're not like, what is a blue face? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. All right, Bevy. So here we are. Bevelations, my love. Congratulations. How do you feel about this in the world? Is it like pride and joy.
I'm so happy it's in the world. You know, Angie, we've both accomplished a lot of things. And I don't know about you, but for me, the book is the biggest accomplishment I've ever had because it's me. I like literally sat down and wrote this book. I wrote it alone.
You could tell because your delivery and the sassiness and your little funny little jokes. Like I was like laughing. I felt like I was sitting in a room with you. Like you could tell that you spent time and you were chuckling while you were writing. And
it was all my asides and all my quips. So it's all me. It's a me versus there's no script. There's no, you can talk about this, but you can't talk about that. You know, it's all of those things. And so it's a very personal project, but I'm glad it's in the world. And I'm glad that it's a self-help book / memoir because I wanted to write this book to make people understand it gets greater later. It's never too late to change your life. And for me, Angie, I'm coming from 150th Street and 8th Avenue. And the things that I have been able to do in my life, yes, I had a great family. Yes, I'm a really smart person. Yes, I'm a very personable person, all these things. But ultimately, I do believe that most of the things that I've been able to accomplish have been because I am true to who I am. I have a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-esteem, and I never apologize for who I am and how I show up. When you get
that shit, baby, talk that shit.
Exactly, I'm gonna talk that shit. When you hire me, you're gonna get some titties. Okay, you're gonna get some uptown swagger. You're gonna get certain things from me, and that's just is what it is. And I'm not gonna apologize about it. And I've never apologized about it. Whether I was in Paris and Milan working at Vibe as a fashion advertising director, whether I was at Rolling Stone, the only Black woman, the only Black person in management, or whether I'm on, you know, a nationally syndicated TV show.
When you talk about Rolling Stone and you talk about in your book, you were the only Black person there, and you talk about
Poor Ray was there, but he was a writer, so I was where the money reside.
Where the money reside. But you also talk about how they really didn't care for hip hop. Like they were not a hip hop friendly establishment at that time.
No.
You think that? How did that change? Did that change? Did it change? When did it change? What did you witness?
Well, what I witnessed was that they they just really wanted fashion advertising. And so the work that I did had nothing, I was just hip hop. But the work I did was not in the hip hop space per se, because I was going over to Europe to break European fashion brands, Gucci and Prada, Dior, and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's what I did. So when they hired me, it wasn't for the prism of hip hop. It was strictly because I had all these high-end fashion relationships. And that's what they wanted out of me. But when I got there and I realized that they had a real aversion, an actual aversion towards hip hop, I was shocked because I was like, well, it's 2005. How y'all want to ignore the preeminent and the dominating music of the culture? And this is a music magazine. That made no sense to me.
It's crazy, but it's telling because people now in 2020, if you're young now, it doesn't make sense to you because hip hop is so universally just, you know, accepted. But back then that was the case. And it was funny because recently I was hearing like an old radio thing and it was like, all our songs and no rap. Like radio stations used to promote, like it used to be in the liners all day, no rap music. Like it would be like the liners and the promos, but that was really it wasn't always as accepted and loved as it is now.
No, when I was coming up, it wasn't sweet. And that's the reason why when I had my 90s hip hop, you know, heyday moments where I was Big Bev from Uptown,
you was in them streets, Bevy. You were in them streets.
I was in them streets. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, did you prefer being, you know, Big Bevy from Uptown and having all that access, or do you prefer now where you get to be Bevy Smith and you have all this access? I said, I love having all this prominent access that I have now, but there's no way I wanted to miss out on Big Bev from Uptown.
No, you had to do that.
That was the most fun. That was all the fucks and fumbles.
I met you as Big Bev.
Exactly. You met me as Big Bev. Yeah. Exactly.
And so you're not really, the person doesn't change, by the way. You're the same in both rooms, in both settings.
Yeah. But you know what the difference is that you know that I can now also handle business. Now, when you met me, now initially you didn't know I was a businesswoman. And then you came to find out. But initially, no, that's not what I led with, because that had no currency up in the tunnel or at the red zone, you know, at the supper club. Like, why am I talking about, I have a big presentation with Bill Blass, or I have to go to Paris because I have to go to the show. Like, who cared? It's an interesting thing, Angie, because now a young woman that's like a hip hop hottie, she would talk about if she was making moves like that. But don't you think that like back then, and I mean, you were always in the industry, so you didn't come up the way I did. You had a linear focus. But when I was going out to parties, I wasn't trying to get no job in the business, honey. I was trying to get the business, if you know what I mean.
You were in them streets.
I was in the streets, having the most fun, darling.
Radio nerd. I was like a radio baby, a nerd. But I was in the streets too, and I was in the clubs, and I was at the tunnel, and I did all that stuff too. But I love that you make a decision in your book, and you're very honest about being in the streets and dealing with men, and you have a rapper experience, and you have a very famous experience. You talk about somebody, one of your ex-lovers, as you call him, said to you recently that you're the most late bloomingest motherfucker that he knows. Yes, exactly. Immediately, I started rolling through my Rolodex, like, who could that be? I have 3 options. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but in my mind, I have 3 options. But you decided to not name names in the book, but you do tell very specific stories.
I did decide not to name names. I didn't think they were really that pertinent to the story. It's not a tell-all. Yeah. It's not that kind of story. And also, too, I really wanted to make sure that I did not give them any shine or any light. Because the light and the shine deserves to be on me. This is my story.
Yeah, and then every interview they ask you about the person that you mentioned in the book, and they don't ask you anything else.
Right. So they the side piece, honey. Yeah. I'm the full entree, darling. But you're the corn on the cob.
But you did say that when you're 85 and you're gonna do another book and you're gonna go Quincy Jones on everybody and spill all of it.
all of it. Angie, I wonder if you know who threatened to throw me out the window. Did you get to that part of the book where it was the big hip hop mogul who threatened to throw me out the window?
I have an idea. Would you like me to guess? No.
Now, would you tell me what color would he wear? That's how I know if you're on the right track.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe not then.
Oh, yeah, because he would wear only a certain color.
So then I don't know who it is. He would only wear a certain color. I don't even know anybody that would only wear a certain color.
Yes, you do, Angie.
What do you say, Britt? Wait, my assistant's taking a guess. What do you say over there? Red?
Red.
Oh, yes. Oh, so I know who that is.
Yes.
You didn't want to say who that was?
No.
That's not who I was thinking. I don't know why I wasn't thinking that. So you were threatened to be thrown out of the window by this person in all red.
Yes.
Seriously threatened or just like jokingly? Because one time Supreme told me he put me in the trunk, but I felt like he was halfway drunk, halfway just joking.
Right. Oh, Supreme? I got Supreme stories too.
I bet you do.
At Quincy Jones' age, that's when I'll tell all those stories. But yeah, no, he was definitely serious, and it's the part in the book, Angie, and I think that you will be able to relate to this part. Not because it was your story, but just because you know these stories. There's a time when you got to get off the streets. Because at a certain age, you no longer are there for the shenanigans. You're not as pleasant. Now you're going to question everything. Now, the car they send to pick you up ain't good enough. The champagne ain't cold enough. When you get to the hotel, it's not flying. You got a lot of complaints because you're grown. Right. And you're no longer just happy to be there.
No, and also you know better. You know what the options are. You know what, right. Of course.
So when this hooligan, brings us to the Four Seasons and don't allow me to go, because I go straight to the mini bar.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't touch that mini bar. I was like, well, we want something to drink, because I was with my friends. He's like, I'm going to send somebody out to get some bottles. Sir, we're on 57th Street. There are no liquor stores around here, okay? So I'm a New Yorker, I know that. So I'm already checking him on things, right?
Right.
And it goes on and on and on. Then he finally tells us, don't go to the VMAs tomorrow because I'm going to do a cookout here. And I'm like, there are no barbecue facilities on 57th Street between Park and Lexington, which is where the Four Seasons is located.
You wanted to get thrown out of the window.
I didn't want to get thrown out the window, but I was just like, what you're not going to do is blow smoke up my ass. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not having it.
So wait, so you're questioning everything, and then he says,
since you know so much, what you think about if I was to throw you out the window? And I said, I think my family would be very rich. Yeah, and then I leave. And then I don't go back for the fictitious barbecue either.
Did you feel at any point like concerned?
With him, no, I didn't know. Well, one time there was Jack the Rapper before he became famous, and we were trapped in an elevator with him, and the girls were screaming, and he brandished a gun and said, "I'll give you bitches something to scream about." So yeah, that was a little scary.
And I'm gonna be honest, we're not saying who this person is, but in my mind, who this person is made me very uncomfortable a couple of times. So I've been in that dark, uncomfortable presence and thought, no, I don't like it here.
No, I don't like it here. This seems dangerous. Yeah, I mean, but he was ultimately a bully. And like most bullies, he was very easily taken down when people decided to take his ass down. But yeah, it was just like one of those really great learning experiences. And that's when I realized I had to get off the streets because I was no longer having as much fun. And I certainly wasn't as much fun to be around because I knew too much.
Yeah.
So then I was like,
and so what do you do then?
Then I was like, oh, I'm going to go and get myself a nice kind of square, like a normal guy to be with.
How'd that go?
Ciao. Well, I went into it in a bad spirit, Angie. And that's the part I'm proudest of, is that I can own up to my part of the problems. I think so many times we have bad relationships and we try and pin it all on the other person. It takes two to tango.
For sure.
And I entered into the relationship with a deceptive spirit. And, to his credit, he had a backbone and he wasn't having it.
Is this somebody that we would know also?
You would know him. He's not known in the to outside person, but he works in the music industry. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So in the same area, when you talk about getting greater later, you kind of, a couple of times in the book you talk about, and you mentioned Cicely Tyson. And you did an event with her.
I just interviewed her 3 days before she passed away.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the weirdest. Had you interviewed her before, or was that the first time?
No, I had been in Miss Cicely Tyson's company, like literally at the same table with her in 2019 about 20 times because we had mutual friends. Right. So I knew Miss Tyson socially. I had never had a chance to interview her. And then this book comes out and they request me to do a town hall with her where I get 35 minutes with Miss Cicely Tyson. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can die now. And it was amazing. And she's everything to me. Every TV show I've ever done, I always make sure to bring Cicely Tyson up in some kind of way. At Page 6 TV, they used to be like, okay, here we go with another Cicely Tyson story. I was like, but you people don't understand. She's the alpha and omega. She won her first Tony at 89. She got her honorary Oscar at 93. She is the epitome of it gets greater later. She is my icon, my beacon. She is my light. So I get a chance to interview her. She's given me everything I've ever wanted and then some. And then 3 days later, she passes away. Some of her last interviews.
Isn't that a weird feeling when you have that? Because people don't realize that sometimes, especially when it's somebody you genuinely connect with, right? Because we do interviews and sometimes they're interesting and fine, but sometimes you actually really feel connected to somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you felt that with her. I had this interview with Pop Smoke right before he passed. And I was like, I really like this kid. I felt like I really connected with him. We had this great talk. And then a few days later, he got murdered.
Yeah. And you were just like, and Tupac called me the night that he went to Nell's where all the nonsense went down. Mm. And I remember thinking like, wow, if only I had went and hung out with him that night, because he called me and said, I'm going to Nell's, Bev, bring the girls, come through. And I was like, oh, I'm already home, because it's before cell phones, Angie. I'm already home.
So he called you on your home phone?
He called me on my home phone. On my home phone, yes. I had gotten off my good old corporate job, and he called me on my home phone. And it was Monday, I want to say, and it was, Sunday was tunnel, so I was already exhausted because, I had done the most the night before. And I was like, oh, I'm going to come out, I'll come out later on in the week. And I hate, so you kind of feel that way. Like, I'm sure for you, you wish maybe you could have said to Pop Smoke, be careful. Be careful about how you moving on social media.
I actually did, somewhat. Wow. I definitely did, but, there was nothing, But you feel that. You feel. I'll give you another one like that too. Like you just talked about Pac and missing that. I got a call. Tracy told me, Amy, I was about to leave my show. It's all packed up, ready to go home. And Tracy told me, Amy Winehouse is in Soho walking around, and she just called and she wants to come up to your show. Now this was she was just bubbling. It wasn't like she was just starting to bubble. And I was like, I'm getting ready to leave. Can we just schedule something? If she's here all this week, we'll do another interview. Of course, she never came back. And then I wound up becoming a huge fan. And then she passed away. And not only did I never get to meet her, I never got to interview her. And I always am like, oh.
Okay, Angie. So wait, since we're doing those ones, so let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
So, as you know, Big died at a Vibe party. It was a Vibe Soul Train Awards party.
Yeah.
I was with my then boyfriend at the time who worked in the industry. And I'll never forget when we were coming up to the Automobile Museum where it was at, I saw Von Zip. And you know, Von Zip is from Uptown, I'm from Harlem. You know, it's all love, love, love. But you know, when you're with a man, and you know, it's difficult. Like, you know, I know you're with a very secure man, and not to say my dude wasn't secure, but it's like, you know,
he was younger. Younger.
And it's like, you know how that go. So, maybe Zip did too much of a, hellos or whatever. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to cool out.
He hugged you a little too tight. He hugged you a little too tight on the hello.
Exactly. And so he didn't say anything, but I felt some kind of way. And so when, and Big had a really big crush on me for years. And so he was over there. We were at the party and he was over there and he was sitting up with the leg up because he had been in the car accident and everything. And I was like, if I had been there with my girls, I would have definitely went over and said hi to him and, gave him love or whatever, because it was a big night. And I remember they played Going Back to Cali, and it was like, that was like, it just bubbled up and it was just, it was everything.
Right.
And I was like, but I'll see him later.
Mm.
And then that night he got killed. So it was like,
You never know. Does that change you? Does that change how you operate now? When you have
it does. I try to, seize the moment, seize the day, definitely. And I think COVID taught us that too, right? Word. Because who would have ever thought we would be locked up for a year, Angie?
No.
A year.
It's the weirdest time ever. It's the weirdest thing ever. You actually, how much of this, because I know the ending you did during this time, but how much of this book happened during this time, during COVID?
Well, I was editing my book right when the pandemic happened. So they sent me back the final edits late February. New York City closes down on March 13th. I get COVID. I realize I'm sick on March 13th as well.
Oh, you got it early.
Early. So that was a bad time to get it because you couldn't get tested. They didn't know what to say or do for you. Always a hot, sticky mess. It was a disaster to have it then. And just as I got well, then my daddy got it, and he died 3 days within having respiratory issues. He died on April 11th. So it was a tough time. And then I had to go back and edit. And then I was like, well, there's no way I'm not going to do a chapter for my daddy. And there's no way I'm not going to talk about George Floyd being murdered. And there's no way I'm not going to talk about the pandemic. So we just had to do a couple of addendums.
Yeah, that made sense.
Yeah.
How are you changed now? Because you're always so confident and stuff, but something like that, I know how close you are and how much you adore your parents.
Yeah.
And by the way, how blessed are you that that you had them for this long in your life, and your mom is still super fly and stylish in her 90s and here. And so I know how much they mean to you. Like, how has that changed you now that he's not here?
I think what's changed me is that with my daddy not being here, I can't say I'm closer to my family because I've always been really close, but like my mom is now like in bubble wrap, right? Like I just got a billboard right across the street from Macy's, and when I was a kid, we would go and meet my mom because she would take the Long Island Railroad in from work, and we would meet my mom at Macy's. And now I have a billboard of my book right there, a block from Penn Station, across the street from Macy's. And it's like, I wish my daddy was here to see it, but I'm so glad that my mom is here to see it. So we're taking her to see it tonight.
Yay!
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. Congratulations, Mama. I'm so happy for you and proud of you. What do you hope for this book in the world? Like, what do you want this book to mean in the world?
what I wanted to mean in the world is that I really wanted to be a self-help book, something that people can go back to time and again to get real life lessons. I have real branding experience in there. There's a brand new chapter. There's a red soul proposition. There's manhunt that teaches you do not rely on a man to define who you are. There's so much information.
There's broke and blissful.
There's broke and blissful, which is one of my favorite ones, Angie.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Being broke but still being happy, and because you're on a path, that's a blessing right there, right? Yeah. So I really want this book to be a beacon of light for people, especially people that come from hard scrabble backgrounds that maybe feel like their dreams are like out of their reach, and it's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Like, do the work, but you got to be tenacious and you got to be resilient, and you can't give up because it takes a long time. I was 38 when I quit Rolling Stone. I get Bravo's Fashion Queens at 45. That's 7 years. And now I'm at the 15-year mark of my journey, and it's completed now, Angie. So it's done. Like TV and the way that I've done it in the past, yeah, I'm not really looking to do TV in that way anymore. And so it's done. Thank you. Moving on. Next.
Trust me, I get you. Trust me. You know me. You know I've had a few bumps in the road with TV. Yeah. So I understand the demon that is.
Yeah, no, I just feel like I've done it. And so
you had a great experience the first time at it. So you did that. Okay, so everybody go get Bevelations. Here it is for you. Bevy Smith, the fabulous, incredible Bevy Smith. Big Bev from Harlem, however you know her.
Yeah.
And if you know, and by the way, if my endorsement is not enough, the back of the book, nice names in the back of the book, Bevy.
Yeah.
She has quotes from Elaine Welter. I never get her name right. Walter Roth. There's no greater celebrity in Harlem than Dapper Dan. He's back here. Whoopi Goldberg. That's a big one.
An EGOT. And I write in the book that I want to become an EGOT. And I have an EGOT endorsing me.
That's pretty amazing. And Pharrell Williams.
Yes. Who's a forever friend. Who made me a video vixen at the age of 42. I'm happy.
Video vixen, Bevy Smith, ladies and
gentlemen. Yes.
I love you, Mama. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Angie. You're the best, and I love you. I'm so happy to see you doing well, and you are the $6 million woman. So I know there's a part 2 of the book coming because, baby, you take a licking and keep on ticking. You like the best Timex out.
They keep trying to take me down, baby. I'm not letting them happen. I won't let it happen.
At all, baby. You built the last.
Thank you, baby.
I love you.
Revelations, everybody. Revelations.
Revelations.